So you've heard that you need a literary agent to sell your book to a publisher. Cool. And you know you're supposed to go out and find one. Cool again. But are some literary agents bad? How do you know if an agent is a creep or a fraud or a shyster? Today I'm going to tell you 3 things to look out for when you're approaching literary agents so you don't find yourself in an unfortunate situation. Okay, let's go. Quick, crazy story. I once had a mailman steal my mail. I know, it was crazy. The Postmaster General's legal office had to get involved. They called me and interviewed me. I got to hear about how they were going to be conducting a sting operation to catch this postal worker. It was all very surreal and strange. But one thing the investigators said to me on the phone stuck with me, which was, most of the people who work for the Postal Service are good people, but we occasionally get a bad apple. I'm sharing that because the same is true for any profession, I would say, including the profession of literary agent. Most of them are going to be great, but occasionally you're going to get a bad apple. Unfortunately, I've encountered one of these bad apples myself, and so have friends. But the good news is that we've all survived and moved on to find representation from fantastic literary agents about whom we can only say wonderful things. So what are signs that a literary agent may be up to no good? All right. The first thing is if they expect you to pay them anything prior to selling your book for you. The standard financial arrangement in the United States and really all of North America between literary agents and authors is that literary agents take a 15% commission of all of the sales that they negotiate for you. So if someone proposes a different arrangement, especially an arrangement where you're supposed to pay them up front, I would approach it very skeptically. I'm not saying it's inherently a predatory situation, but it may be because that's not the standard way that things are done. Not right now. The next question I would ask is not so much for the purpose of spotting a bad apple, since a literary agent who doesn't have a track record isn't a bad person. But this is just a way to check that the agent you are considering working with or querying is legit. It sounds obvious, but I find that many of the writers I work with in my programs don't actually think to do it, so I think it's worth saying, and it's this. Check out the agent's history of selling books. Have they sold books? Who are their clients? How recently have they sold books? Especially ones like the one you have written. Now, a newer agent may not have a very extensive sales history yet, and there's nothing wrong with that. I actually think that often newer agents are a great fit for debut authors because they're building their client list and looking for authors to represent. And you are looking for an agent who has the bandwidth to prioritize you and to get excited about representing you and your book. But if an agent does have at least some history of book sales, that's a sign they're legit. And I mean legit in the sense that they actually have professional relationships with editors and are a player in the publishing industry. A substitute for this could be that a newer agent is part of an agency that has a history of book sales, okay? That also counts. Even if the agent himself or herself doesn't, their being part of an agency that does is enough for me to feel confident in the relationships they have in publishing. One question I sometimes get is if it matters where the agent is geographically. Yes and no. If you're trying to sell a book in the United States, I would look for an agent in the United States. But does it matter if that agent is in New York or California? No. You'll find that many are in New York. That's sort of the hub of publishing and representation. But I would not dismiss or overlook an agency simply because it is somewhere else in the United States. And the same country rule applies for countries outside of the US. If you're an author in the UK looking to publish in the UK, I would look for representation in the UK. This doesn't mean that your book won't be sold outside of your home country, but that's a different arrangement. Once you have your main literary agent, he or she will coordinate with a co-agent in another country to collaboratively represent you abroad. Your first task is to find your primary agent in your home country. All right, before I get to the third and most important question to ask when you're assessing whether an agent is a good fit, I want to invite you to check out my program, The Book Incubator, linked below this video. It's a dream program for writers and the only way I work with writers. I love it. I love working with them, and I would love to hear from you about your book idea, so click below to share with me. Now back to the video. The third and final question I would ask when trying to assess whether an agent is maybe a good fit or a bad idea for you is a lot more touchy-feely than the others, but that doesn't mean it's not important, because I actually think it's the most important. And that is, what kind of feeling does this agent give you? How do you feel when you are interacting with this person? Whether it's over email, phone, or in person. Do you find them easy to trust? Is your body telling you that this is a safe and comfortable situation, or is your body telling you that something about this is dangerous? I know that may sound dramatic, but I really believe in listening to the cues that our senses are sending us. And if I'm honest, that one agent I interacted with who turned out to be a bad apple, I could have avoided if I had paid attention to the signals my body was sending me when I was in his presence. I think our bodies are very wise, and they can often detect bad situations before our brains can, because we're animals after all. So I want you to pay attention to how you feel when you are interacting with this person. I've now had my same agent for 6 years, and every time I talk to her, I feel great, encouraged, supported, and energized. And that's the kind of relationship I want for you. All right, if you've made it this far in the video, I'm guessing that you're writing a book or want to write a book. And if so, I would love to hear from you. When I'm not writing, my mission in life is to help writers write their dream books. I love it. I live for it. If you're curious to know more, I have a free video walking you through my exact process for writing a book. And you can get it by clicking below and answering 2 questions to apply to my program, the Book Incubator. You'll get the video whether you join or not. No pressure to enroll. So just click below and tell me a little bit about you and your book or book idea. I'm excited to hear from you.